In the third week? Yes, the third week? Fourth week? Is it the fourth week? Oh my gosh, it's the fourth week. I can't keep track of it. In the great work of your life. And the great work of your life, I'll remind you, we'll give you this little synopsis. The great work of your life is simply to live the life, to live your Dharma, to live what you are created to be. Not what other people think you should be, or maybe what you think you have to be, but what that urge inside you is telling you to be. That's what your Dharma is. And the great work of your life is simply to live that Dharma, is to live that out loud, right? And we started off in the first week with this folding chair. I'm still carrying it around. I like it. I like the prop. And the first week, we talked about setting up the chair at the intersection of doubt, right? Being in this folding chair at the intersection of doubt. The first week I said, all we have to do when we are here, when we doubt what we're meant to be, because we get those inklings about it, but then we're like, nah, that's really not what I'm supposed to do, right? Because then we got out all this stuff out here, maybe telling us something different. But I said, the first week, all we have to do is being willing to get up out of the chair. We just need to be willing to stand up. We can sit here with one foot on one side of the line and the other on the other, and just be willing to stand up. The first pillar then in this great work of your life, the first pillar in living your Dharma, is to simply look toward your Dharma. Look toward your Dharma. And what does that mean? That means that's what we do when we stand up, when we have this inkling, when we start to cull it out, and we're starting to know, we recognize that we actually have a Dharma. Because some of us are like, oh, no, not me. It's not me. I'm not in the headlines. You don't have to be. I'm not winning the Tony or the Emmy or the Oscar. You don't have to be. But to recognize this largeness in the smallness. Remember that lesson, week 2? Recognize the largeness in the smallness. To actually realize that I have a Dharma. I am made to be and to create and to express this gift that I am. And that was week 2. Week 3, now I know why I'm 4. Week 3 said, when I understand what that is, to simply live it out loud. Do it all out. And what that means is to get to that scary part where we actually fold up the chair and set it aside. And we said that's really scary, but it's freeing at the same time. It's that mixture of excitement and fear, because you know you're willing to take a step. And the ideas in that lesson were to let me see what it was because I forget. Was to do it on purpose. Remember that? To do it on purpose with complete devotion and to practice deliberately. That's what we were talking about last week. So that sets the stage for this third pillar. And you're thinking, oh, this must be a really exciting one because that was so exciting last week. And it's so exciting to be up out of this chair. So what possibly could the third pillar in our progress and process of living our Dharma be? Well, here it is, folks. And I'm sorry it's not the most exciting one. It's actually kind of tough. And the third one is simply this, to let go of the fruits. In other words, I'm telling you, after doing all this preparation, having all the excitement of understanding what it is and being willing to step out and do it on purpose, I'm telling you not to be attached to the outcome. Does that make any sense at all? You're like, oh no, this doesn't make any sense. But it's the truth, my friends. Is to not be attached to the outcome. It doesn't really matter if it ever works out here. What matters is what happens inside of you and the satisfaction that you have from actually living the truth of the gift that you are. Here's what Krishna says to Arjuna. Now you got to get this. He says, you have the right to work your Dharma, but never to the fruit of your work. Oh, that's like a big downer, isn't it? Like you commit to this thing, and then whether you get there or not is not part of the process. This is a tough one. But think about it this way. When your mind is focused on something in the future, it cannot be in the present. When your mind, for instance, is obsessively focused on what you're going to get, You miss what's in front of you. We do it all the time. Let's give you an example right now. So maybe you have brunch at 11:30 today, and right now you're kind of hungry. Anybody fall in that category? Maybe you haven't eaten dinner yet. And when your stomach starts growling a little bit, and you start thinking, oh man, I'm so glad I got that stuff in my crock pot at home. And man, you can almost smell that soup that you put in there, that chicken or whatever it is. Or man, I made plans with friends and we're going out to the favorite burger joint or vegan restaurant or wherever it is. And you start thinking that way. Pretty soon, you're not hearing a word I say. You're not even here. We even say, yeah, I wasn't even there. I mean, I was there, but I wasn't, right? Because our mind takes us out in the future and we lose the present. We lose it. And that's what happens when we're so far focused on the result that we want to achieve, the picture that we want in the end, that we lose what's here right now. Here's another example. Some of you know I used to be a potter. So I used to throw on the pottery wheel. And I can tell you that if my mind was not there right on that pottery, how many of you have ever practiced on a wheel? Anybody? Yeah, a few of you, right? Yeah. If you're not right there, like you can't be thinking, oh, this is really what I want it to look like at the end. Like if you're thinking about this while you're here, chances are you don't have a chance of getting there. You don't have a chance because all your energy and all your passion and all your engagement has to be right here on that wheel. You might have an idea of what you want to accomplish, but all of it has to be right there. And if not, you're going to miss it, and that piece of clay is going to fling off that wheel. I will guarantee you, right? Right? It's not going to be there. It's going to fling off the wheel. That's the idea here about not being attached so much to what you want to accomplish that you lose the possibility in the moment. Yeah? It's coming clearer now? Maybe a little bit. When the mind is not colored by grasping, it's free. It's free of disturbance, and it is a mind at ease, and it is seen clearly. And when the mind is in this excellent and most refined state, we are free to truly absorb ourselves into the Dharma. That's true with pottery. You are just like right here. I used to spend so many hours in the studio, and I'd be like right there. Pretty soon it would be 3 hours later. Like, oh my gosh, it was so absorbed right there. That's what it's like to be absorbed in the doing of your Dharma. When there is no obsessive concern with the outcome, with gain of any kind, we are able to be completely absorbed in what we're doing. Our actions and thoughts are undivided by worry, and all of our energy can become concentrated to the task at hand. Are you seeing that? When you move amidst the world of sense, free from attachment, then that's where you'll find peace. And that's where you'll be able to pursue and be totally engaged in what you are created to be. It's detaching from the outcome. Now let me be clear, it's not detaching from the energy and the passion of it. There is no way to be detached from the energy and passion on that pottery wheel. There's no way for you to be detached from the energy and passion you have for your Dharma. You are just simply not attached to a particular outcome. You may envision it. In fact, that's what happens in pottery. When I was throwing this pot, I threw a couple pounds of clay on the wheel. When I was throwing this pot, and I realize this isn't a thrown pot, but let's just pretend. When I was throwing this pot, I put a lot less clay on the wheel. Because it took more clay to make this than it did to make this. So I had an idea. I had a direction I was going. I knew this pot would be open on the top, and I knew this one would be closed. I had an idea of what I was doing, but I had to be exactly in the moment while I was doing it. You see that? Exactly in the moment. And that's the way it is with Dharma. We can have an idea, we can have a vision for what it is, and then we have to let it go and detach from it and be present in the moment. That's the way Dharma works. To have that attention right there. So in Dharma there is complete passion and desire, but not attachment to a particular outcome. Just maybe a vision for it, like with pottery. So how in the world do we do this? How do we actually do this? I mean, it may sound good. It sounds wonderful to me, actually, to not be contained even by the outcome. Maybe I didn't even think it would get this big. And oh my God, in the end it had this wonderful glaze and on and on, right? Maybe it's better than I could even imagine. When I let go of that, I put no constraint on it. But how do we do it? How do we do it? Well, the first idea that I want to share with you is a very simple one, and that is to fall in love with your Dharma. It's really that simple. Fall in love with it. I mean, really love it. Love it with all your heart. Love it passionately. Just fall in love with your Dharma, no matter what it is. Remember? See the largeness in the smallness. To completely fall in love with your Dharma. To realize that it's the gift. To not be concerned whether it brings you money or fame or recognition, but to love the activity of it itself. Like, that's what we do. We love the activity of it regardless of what it'll get us. Because what it gets us is irrelevant to living our Dharma. To fall in love with it. Let me read you this. In the book, Stephen Cope writes about the author John Keats, the poet John Keats. And his biographer wrote this about how Keats matured in his approach to his Dharma, his writing of poetry. He says, a year or two earlier, he had described the writing of his poetry in terms of a journey, a battle, a cliff to be scaled. Now, he saw it in images of grain ripening, of wine aging, of the sun rising and setting, and the flower which must drink the nature of the soil before it can blossom. Do you see the difference? Do you see the difference in the activity of pursuing and expressing your Dharma? It's not a cliff to be scaled. It's not something to overcome. It's simply something to be with as it ripens and unfolds. There's a difference there. And that is really loving it. I mean, unless you're a cliff climber, who wants to climb a cliff? Right? It's the difficult and struggle of it. It doesn't have to be the struggle of it. Well, here's the big thing about this. When you fall in love with your Dharma, things in you start to shift. When you fall completely in love with what you are meant to be, things in you start to shift. And you get these glimpses. You get these glimpses of wisdom from the spiritual sense. And you realize that you aren't even really the one doing it. It is God through you. It is Krishna through you. It is Allah through you. It is Shiva through you. It is Holy Spirit through you. Whatever your name for, it is that. It is Creator through me. You know, I say that sometimes when I'm up here. I say, I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. I didn't plan to say that. But when we get out of the way enough, when we love our Dharma so much, we open up the gate for love to do the work. For God to do the work. And sometimes we just get a glimpse of that. And it's so exhilarating. It's amazing. And all we have to do, or what we have to do, is love what we're meant to be. To absolutely fall in love with it. It's an amazing place to be. And I wish I could spend more time there. But sometimes it's just that glimpse of God as me, through me, in me. Now there's a story that Stephen Cope tells about one of his friends from college who was a John Keats just maniac. He loved Keats. He talked about him all the time. He quoted his poetry all the time. And in fact, if you read the story in the book, he actually became Keats. I mean, he just expressed that. He became a playwright. He became a playwright. And just as John Keats died a very early death, Mark was on that path as well when Stephen met him at the college they attended. And they were talking about it, and Mark said this. He said, Mark talked to him about he struggled with his writing, how he struggled with his writing. And he said to Stephen, he said, I know I'm not a brilliant playwright. I'm not a natural, really. It didn't come easy. But it was my work to do. Do you see that? It was my work to do. He's not a famous playwright. You probably never heard of him. I don't know his last name. He doesn't share that. But it was my work to do. It doesn't matter how many people show up at Spiritual Soul Center. It doesn't matter about things that in the physical world to me. It matters that I'm able to do this and anybody shows up. Right? It's my work to do. Well, I won't be a Joel Osteen, or maybe I will. Or I won't be someone like, but it doesn't matter. What matters is it's mine to do. And I know it is. Enough of you tell me about it. I'm starting to believe it myself. You see, it was my work to do, is what Mark said. And that's the truth about your Dharma. It's your work to do, no matter what. So, it's all good when you know what it is, you're living it out loud, you're practicing it, you're getting off the chair of doubt, maybe 10 times a day. Earlier today I was in it. I said to Renee, oh, I don't know. But getting up out of the chair. But what happens? You know, something always happens, right? It's wham, poof, pow, holy smokes, Batman, you know, that kind of thing happens in your life. It happens in every Batman story. There's always something that comes out, wham, poof, pow. Something comes out of thin air, it seems like. Well, here's the second idea in this pillar that says this. When difficulties arise, and they will, my friends, you know it. You've had them arise in your life. But when difficulty arises, when you're there on all cylinders, pumping on your Dharma, and difficulty arises, make that your Dharma. Make that difficulty your Dharma. What is this moment calling you to be? That is our challenge. Your Dharma is the work that is called forth from you at this moment. And like everything in this impermanent world, the work of the moment can change on a dime. Most of us do not much like change, do we? We get our mitts around the Dharma of the moment and we don't want to let go. But here's the truth, my friends, we have to let go. Because the moment is calling us into the Dharma of the moment. Whatever that is. Whatever it is at that time. And this is one of the hardest things, I think. It's one thing to leave loose of the outcome. Maybe that's possible. But how hard is it to, when difficulties arise, to simply make that your Dharma? Stephen tells a story in his book about his parents. His father was a professor, just an articulate and well-dressed, well-carried man, and he came to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And his mother was in a place where she just did not want to accept it. Right? She didn't want to accept it. She wanted to pretend as if it didn't happen, to pretend as if they could fight it and make it okay. As if it was going to be different with him. In fact, to the point where she was driving around with him in a car, watching him run red lights and run through stop signs, and refusing to accept where he was. Stephen, telling the story after his father passed on, said, you know what my dad did? And I didn't realize it at the moment. He walked right into it. He walked right into that Dharma. After having been a college professor, having been so articulate, and so just right on with his mind. He walked right into it. And that's what I'm talking about, is to be able to walk right into where you are, even though it's difficult. Some of you know Richard Levy from Unity. He was the Unity minister before the current minister was there. And Richard was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of cancer. And every day, every week, he showed up on this platform at Unity. He was in a wheelchair, he was on crutches, he was with a cane, he was with a walker, and he taught us what it looked like to be in your Dharma, walking toward death. Until he couldn't do it anymore. Right? Until he couldn't do it anymore. To be right there with it. To not shy away from it. To walk right in the middle of it. There's story after story about this. One of my favorites is this football player, Eric LeGrand. Anybody know Eric LeGrand? He was a Rutgers football player back in 2010, and he suffered a spinal cord injury that paralyzed him from the shoulders down. He was in college. And he was on a breathing machine, and he said, he was ready to come off. A few months later, around Thanksgiving, a month later, he said this about his breathing machine. It's not even whether you keep breathing. It's whether you keep breathing. It's whether you keep breathing how you want to breathe. It's how you want to breathe that matters. He was signed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers symbolically in 2012. He got the Unsung Hero Award in 2012 also. He was voted the most influential person in New Jersey sports in 2012. All in 2012, 2 years, still in a wheelchair, still paralyzed from the shoulders down. He started his Eric LeGrand Patriot Saint Foundation to help those with spinal cord injuries. It was announced in 2013 that his Rutgers was retiring his number 52 jersey, but only until he could walk back on the field. And then they were going to release it to a worthy player. In 2014, he received his degree in labor relations at Rutgers. In 2016, he had a park named after him. It's called the Eric LeGrand Believe Park. And in 2017, the WWE, a professional wrestling and media company, gave him the Warrior Award for an individual who has exhibited unwavering strength and perseverance and who lives life with the courage and compassion that embodies the indomitable spirit of the ultimate warrior. He's still in the wheelchair. He's still paralyzed from the shoulder down. And he's living the Dharma that he was dealt. He was walking right into the center of it and is still right there. Right there. You remember the singer Mandy Harvey on America's Got Talent? Anybody remember her? She's the young singer who plays a little ukulele. Can't hear. She can't hear at all. She plays by hearing of the bass and the vibration on the stage. She got the golden buzzer. Mandy Harvey got the golden buzzer. Can't hear. She's a singer. That's walking right into your Dharma, folks. And I got one more for you, just to put the icing on the cake. This woman's name is Rebecca Gregory. She was near the finish line at the Boston Marathon with her 5-year-old son and her boyfriend when the bomb shrapnel shredded her left leg. She later wed that boyfriend in a fairy tale ceremony on TLC's Say Yes to the Dress. But afterwards, after so many surgeries and everything, she had to have her leg amputated, and her marriage ended in divorce. Fast forward. She didn't just survive, she thrived. She walked right into that Dharma, let me tell you. She ended up marrying her college sweetheart. She moved to Houston, where the Astros put her on a baseball card. I mean, who does this stuff? She had a daughter after people telling her that she probably couldn't have any more children. And she established an Angels Foundation to help children with post-traumatic stress disorder. She wrote a book, Taking Back My Life. And these are her words. Normalcy goes out the window when these things happen. You have to figure out how to piece your life back together. This has made me look at life from a whole different perspective. I wake up just grateful to be alive and to have one more moment with my husband and my children. She says this, you either count your blessings or you count your problems. These people have walked directly into the eye of their Dharma, of what happened at that moment that changed the course of their lives. They learned to tolerate discomfort. They learned to be okay with it. They learned to be more than okay with it. They learned to have baseball cards and foundations named after them. Richard right now is pretty much chuckling over this one. You know he is, those of you who knew him. I give you these examples not to show you or me how poorly I've done, but to help us rise up and to know that it's possible. That no matter what's happening, no matter if you're chugging on with your Dharma, and you have a divorce, you have a car wreck, you have a leg amputated, you're in the hospital, something's not working out, that it's possible to stay right there with it. Get right in close with it. Walk right into the heart of it. And make it your next greatest possibility in your life. So let's take those ideas into meditation today. Let's take the idea of possibility that my Dharma is whatever is being shown to me today. That if I have one, and I know what it is, not that if I have one, that if I'm aware of what it is, that I love it with all my passionate heart, with everything I can muster to love it fully, and to not be afraid to let go of how someone else thinks it should look, or even how I think it should look in my small-mindedness. So let's breathe in and breathe out. As we take this time in meditation to be still, to open up, and let's today surrender, to simply surrender to this sweet moment now. Breathing in and breathing out.
There's a light in your eyes, but I just can't quit, 'cause I know there's more. This is bliss, oh, what I'm looking for, what I'm looking for. Oh, shall I, oh, shall I, oh, shall I, yeah, 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 shall I. Oh, what I'm looking for, just what I'm looking for. I know it's hard to find, just don't try to fight it. It starts when you look inside, look inside. And I know it's hard to find, just don't try to fight it. It starts when you look inside, look inside. El Shaddai, 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 El Shaddai. Oh, what I'm looking for, just what I'm looking for. Just what I'm looking for. Just don't try to fight it. Starts when you look inside, look inside.
my life, that which I have woven and that which has been woven for me, is different from what I had imagined it would be. God, at times this disappointment stirs heavily upon my heart and confuses my mind. And in those moments I forget that there is a wisdom in the universe beyond my understanding. That all is here for my awakening, and that you have always been with me and will always guide me. Help me not only accept but celebrate the life that I have, rejoicing in the beauty of all its imperfections, for they may, in fact, be the most perfect gifts of all.